It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when I, Marcus Bryant, a 38-year-old Army veteran, worked on the side fence of my private estate. My service dog, Max, a golden retriever wearing a bright red vest labeled, "Service Dog, Do Not Distract," lay peacefully at my feet. At exactly 12:05 p.m., the peace shattered. Without warning, Karen, an overzealous representative from the HOA, stormed onto my land. She didn't knock or announce herself, she simply marched down the gravel path shouting about community standards. Before I could react, Karen yanked a pink can of pepper spray from her oversized tote and aimed it directly at Max's face. I screamed as the spray arced through the air. Max yelped, paws scratching at his eyes, and collapsed into my arms, trembling and whimpering. My hands shook as I tried to shield him, wiping stinging tears from his fur. Karen stood back with a triumphant smirk, declaring, "That dog is a threat, just a mutt in a vest." In a single moment, my sanctuary became a crime scene, and Karen's assault on Max set in motion a legal battle I never anticipated. Marcus Bryant steadied his hands as he recounted the moment everything changed. A 38-year-old Army veteran who served 12 years before a battlefield injury forced his retirement, Marcus had returned home craving peace and open space. That yearning led him to a 5-acre estate on the outskirts of town, rolling pastures, a meandering creek, and enough privacy to let his mind heal. He found his greatest ally in Max, a golden retriever assigned through a veteran support program. More than a pet, Max wore a bright red vest stitched with, "Service Dog, Do Not Distract." Trained to sense rising anxiety or flashbacks, Max had guided Marcus out of countless silent nights. Without him, Marcus admitted, he might still wake up in cold sweats. Max's steady presence kept the past at bay. The sprawling ranch boasted a sturdy barn for Marcus's livestock. 2 goats and a pair of rescue sheep, plus a vegetable plot near the fence line. On that fateful Saturday morning, Marcus fixed loose boards on the southern perimeter while Max lounged beside him. The sun filtered through oak leaves, turning dust motes into sparks of light. What Marcus hadn't anticipated was the Green Hills HOA, a board that had quietly redrawn boundary lines to include his property. Their newsletters, passive-aggressive suggestions about fence heights, paint colors, and even flagpole specifications, landed in his mailbox despite his location just outside the original district. Marcus chose to ignore their junk mail, focusing instead on Max and the simple tasks of ranch life. Yet as he hammered a rail into place, the memory of the HOA's intrusion lingered. He remembered the first, courtesy visit, from an HOA representative named Grant, who demanded his American flag be removed because the pole wasn't approved. Marcus laughed Grant off, trusting the open sky more than an unelected committee. That morning, Max padded along the gravel path, tail wagging, as Marcus tested the fence's stability. Had Marcus known Karen, the HOA's self-styled enforcer, would storm out of nowhere with pepper spray in hand, they both might never have stepped onto that sunlit plot again. As Max lay contentedly in the dappled shade, neither man nor dog suspected the conflict about to erupt. At first, the HOA's overtures seemed harmless, a glossy brochure about community events, a reminder about annual dues. Then subtle shifts emerged. Marcus noticed his "No Trespassing" sign bent backward as if yanked by a giant hand. His mailbox, a battered, leaf-stained sentinel at the gate, overflowed with pamphlets demanding compliance with landscaping guidelines that made no sense for a 5-acre estate. He pored over satellite maps and property deeds. When he purchased the land, its western edge lay outside Green Hills HOA jurisdiction. Yet now, official notices bore HOA letterhead and threatened fines for non-standard lawn height. The boundary line on their printed map inched farther west each month, like an encroaching tide. Marcus found it absurd, his sprawling pastures, barn, and fenced livestock somehow subject to suburban aesthetics. He tossed the newsletters into a stack beside his workbench, each one a fresh attempt to apply bylaws meant for quarter-acre lots. Even talk of dog licensing felt ludicrous. Max wasn't a pet. Still, Marcus maintained composure. He documented every notice, photographs of bent signs, dated letters stuffed under his barn door, emails pleading for his compliance. He assumed the HOA board would see reason, he'd show them maps, deeds, and county records proving his exemption. But the HOA's messages escalated. Anonymous letters accused his goats of damaging property lines. A voicemail warned of legal action if he didn't repaint his barn within 7 days. Hopper video captured a shadow, maybe a neighbor, maybe someone paid by the HOA, driving down his private driveway at dusk. Then came Karen's first attempt at direct confrontation. She arrived at the gate clutching a clipboard and a ferocious smile. Marcus met her by the flagpole. "You're outside our district," he said gently. Karen's lips quivered. "We'll see about that," she hissed. Marcus turned back to Max, who crouched protectively at his side. A chill traced Marcus's spine as Karen's parting words melted into the evening air. He realized ignoring them hadn't worked. He steeled himself. He would gather every scrap of evidence, every dated photo, every legal document. If the HOA insisted on dragging his ranch into their small lot rules, Marcus intended to meet them in court. But even as he resolved to prepare his defense, he never guessed how far Karen would go before that day arrived. That Monday morning, Marcus pulled into his driveway and saw tire tracks cutting across his pastures, where no vehicle should have been. Earlier that week, an anonymous letter warned him to conform to Green Hills landscaping rules or face fines. Now, it was clear someone was proving a point. He stepped from his pickup, Max padding at his side, and studied the tracks. The ground was soft from spring rains, he could trace fender treads heading toward the barn. Marcus fetched his phone and snapped photos. Then he examined the fence, where a plank had been loosened, its picket vein undercut. He pressed the wood, it wobbled. Someone had tried to enter again. Later that afternoon, an HOA board member named Susan arrived unannounced, clipboard in hand, for what they called a courtesy inspection. Susan wore a business suit incongruous with the rural setting. She eyed the fence, the goats grazing nearby, then stared at Max's vest. "I see your dog isn't licensed," she said, tone polite. Marcus met her gaze. "Max is a service dog protected under federal law," he replied. "He's licensed through the VA program." Susan tapped her pen. "The HOA rules state that all animals must be registered with our local authority." Marcus nodded politely. "I've shown you my credentials before. Here are my county records and my service dog registration." He handed her printed copies. Susan flipped through them, face blank. "Very well," she said at last. "But I notice your fence posts are painted a shade darker than the approved color palette. And your barn roof isn't the standard gray metal, it's red. HOA guidelines require earth-toned roofing. Please submit a plan to repaint." Marcus took a steady breath. "My property is outside your original jurisdiction. I have county documents confirming that." Susan's lips tightened. "Our updated map includes properties west of the creek. That redrawn line cuts through my well house and barn." "It's invalid because I never consented," Marcus said. He waved at the barn. "My livestock shelter isn't a community amenity. It's my livelihood." Susan cleared her throat. "If you won't comply, the board may convene a hearing and impose fines up to $1,000 per violation." Max let out a low whine. Marcus crouched to stroke his flank. "I won't risk my freedom or my dog's safety for an HOA rule that doesn't apply." Susan squared her shoulders. "I'll report this to the board." Without another word, she strode away. Marcus watched her go, anger simmering beneath calm. Each uninvited inspection, each petty complaint chipped at the peace he'd fought so hard to reclaim. He headed into the barn, secured his ledger, and added today's events, Will Rutt's, loosened boards, and Susan's demands. That evening, as twilight settled over the pasture, Marcus gathered satellite images, deed records, and state statutes. He printed 50 pages of documentation, each signed and stamped. County assessor maps, VA service dog certification, and letters from his mortgage officer showing the property's exact location. With a heavy heart, he realized, the HOA wasn't just enforcing rules, they were testing boundaries, pushing for confrontation. And Karen, Susan, and the rest would not stop until they broke him or drove him away. He rose and went outside, running a hand along Max's flank. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we start building our defense." The ranch lay silent, the creek's water whispering against its banks. Marcus knew the tests ahead would be harder than any military mission, but he was ready to fight for his land, his dog, and his peace. 2 days after filing his DOJ complaint, Marcus took Max for a slow walk around the pasture. Max, still recovering from the pepper spray incident, moved cautiously, his vest slightly damp from recent cleaning. As they neared the barn, Marcus noticed tire tracks leading up the gravel path. His heart sank. Karen appeared at the crest of the hill, flanked by 2 HOA associates and a sheriff's deputy in olive uniform. She waved a sheaf of papers, her expression a blend of triumph and indignation. "This dog attacked a child last week," Karen declared, thrusting the documents into the deputy's chest. Marcus froze. "What child?" he asked, voice measured. Karen smirked. "Sworn complaint filed yesterday. Grove Street resident. He panicked when your aggressive animal chased him into his yard." The deputy, eyebrow raised, consulted the papers, an unsigned, vague narrative alleging Max ran off leash and lunged at a minor. Marcus stepped closer. "Max hasn't left my property in weeks. He was sprayed with pepper spray and is under veterinary care. I have records and security camera footage proving that." The deputy looked from Marcus to the HOA group, then back at the papers. "Mr. Bryant, may we speak privately?" He led Marcus 50 feet away. Karen's associates hovered, recording on smartphones. The deputy spoke quietly, "This complaint lacks detail, no date, no address, no photos. Grove Street is over a mile from your ranch. I've reviewed your surveillance clips, Max did not leave your property. He's clearly a service dog recovering from injury." Marcus produced his vet documentation and security timestamps. The deputy nodded. "I can't act on this. It appears to be a false report to harass you." As they rejoined the group, the deputy addressed Karen. "Ma'am, I'm going to file this as a harassment dispute. Until further investigation, no action will be taken." Karen's face flushed. She sputtered, "You're protecting this terrible animal." But the deputy raised a hand. "The law protects service animals. If you file another unfounded complaint, you could face charges for filing a false report." Karen's associates exchanged uneasy glances. Karen shoved the papers back into her folder and stalked off. The HOA members followed silently. Marcus watched them disappear, then folded the documents. "Thank you," he said to the deputy. The officer nodded. "Keep documenting. I'll remain alert to any further complaints." Back at the barn, Max settled on straw, head resting on his paws. Marcus knelt beside him. "That was close, buddy. But they're learning we won't be intimidated." Max wagged his tail, offering a gentle nuzzle. Marcus smiled, resolve firm, the confrontation had shifted. No longer passive victims, they were prepared to stand their ground, backed by evidence and the law. That evening, Agent Ramirez called. His voice was calm but urgent. "Marcus, I've reviewed the materials you sent. Excellent work. We're opening a formal inquiry. I need originals of the vet report, your service dog certification, and unedited video files." The next morning, Marcus gathered binders at his desk. The vet statement detailing Max's eye inflammation and prescribed treatment, the VA-issued service dog certification card, and recorded footage from multiple security cameras showing Karen's unauthorized entry and the pepper spray incident. Each binder was meticulously labeled and organized. At Ramirez's office, Marcus handed over the documents and encrypted flash drives containing unedited timestamps. Ramirez and a DOJ investigator examined the evidence, noting the consistency of dates and the clarity of the footage. The investigator paused a clip showing Karen pausing mid-spray to look directly into the camera, then releasing the irritant onto Max's face. Ramirez leaned back, eyes serious. "This is precisely what we need. Assaulting a federally protected service animal and trespass. We'll coordinate with the U.S. Attorney's Office and issue subpoenas for HOA records." Over the following days, Ramirez requested additional data. Phone logs from Karen's cell, HOA board meeting minutes, and financial statements. Marcus worked with his real estate lawyer to secure HOA incorporation documents from the state registry and to obtain copies of property line surveys. Meanwhile, his IT consultant duplicated every security clip onto a secure server. A confidential DOJ meeting at the ranch brought two federal agents, Investigator Smith and U.S. Attorney Collins. They walked the property, examined fence lines, and reviewed physical evidence, broken fence boards, pepper spray residue on Max's vest, and plow marks in the pasture. Max sat between Marcus and the agents, calm and dignified. After the site visit, the team paused at the creek's edge. Collins placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Mr. Bryant, you've done everything right. Your documentation will underpin both criminal and civil actions. We're moving to freeze HOA assets and call board members for deposition." That night, as twilight settled over the estate, Marcus sat on the porch with Max. "We're not alone," he whispered. Max rested his head on Marcus's knee, eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lantern. In that moment, the ranch felt less like a battlefield and more like a beacon of justice, fueled by thorough preparation and unwavering resolve. Subpoenaed bank statements and HOA records arrived at the DOJ office in sealed envelopes. Ramirez and Investigator Smith sat at a conference table surrounded by stacks of ledgers, meeting minutes, and emails. As they pored over the documents, a disturbing pattern emerged. HOA dues earmarked for community landscaping had been diverted into Karen's personal account. Transactions showed recurring monthly payments, $500 here, $1,200 there, labeled vaguely as facility improvements. Each corresponded with credit card charges at home improvement stores and luxury boutiques. Accounts funded Karen's backyard hot tub, designer patio furniture, and a custom-built dog house for her poodle, all paid with HOA dues. Email correspondence between Karen and the HOA treasurer, Susan, revealed coercion, threats to withhold board benefits if Susan refused to approve false invoices. Another board member, Grant, admitted in a sworn statement that he signed expense reports without reviewing receipts, trusting Karen's judgment. With this evidence, the U.S. Attorney drafted criminal charges: embezzlement, conspiracy to defraud a disabled veteran, and misuse of nonprofit funds. Indictments named Karen, Susan, and Grant. Arrest warrants were issued. On the civil side, Marcus's attorney filed a complaint in state court seeking restitution for property damage, emotional distress, and punitive damages under ADA provisions. The complaint itemized each trespass, false notice, and assault on Max, demanding full compensation for vet bills, structural repairs, and mental anguish. When news broke, local media descended on the ranch. Reporters interviewed neighbors who confirmed hearing midnight meetings and witnessing HOA board members driving on Marcus's private driveway. A television segment aired security camera footage side by side with bank statement graphics, leaving little doubt of the board's misconduct. Karen's arrest at her home was captured on camera. U.S. Marshals handcuffed her as she protested her innocence. Susan and Grant received subpoenas and opted to cooperate, providing further evidence against Karen. Back at the ranch, Marcus watched the coverage from his porch, Max by his side. Justice had begun to dismantle the corrupt HOA, but he knew rebuilding trust would take time. Still, with the board's power broken and federal investigators in charge, the path toward resolution lay open, paved by truth and unwavering documentation. Even as the HOA board crumbled under federal indictments, threats against Marcus and Max escalated. One morning, he discovered fresh tire treads across his pasture, leading to the barn where 2 tires of his ATV had been slashed. Red spray paint spelled "mutt" across its side. Pinned beside the deflated rubber was a dead rat wired to a board, a note reading, "Next time it's the dog." Shaken, Marcus dialed Agent Ramirez. Within hours, a team of federal agents and local deputies scoured his security camera footage. An unmarked white pickup, plate obscured, had circled the property after dark. Later, gas station surveillance placed that same truck in a nearby county. Through diligent work, investigators identified the driver, Roy Jenkins, a peripheral HOA member. They arrested Roy, who confessed under interrogation that Karen had enlisted him to teach Bryant a lesson and intimidate him into silence. Despite Roy's confession, Marcus remained vigilant. 2 nights later, he awoke to flickering light near his hayshed. A neighbor, Rob, a retired firefighter, had spotted smoke and called 911 promptly, saving the structure. The arson attempt used lighter fluid, traces of which forensic teams collected from the scorched ground. Feds obtained a protective order and deployed covert surveillance. Agents rotated watches around the barn, and Marcus fortified locks and motion sensor lights. Though fear lingered, Marcus steadfastly continued his routines, checking fence lines, tending livestock, and walking Max before sunrise. Max, once a symbol of healing, had become a target. But under the glow of new security lights, Marcus felt reassured by the agent's presence. Still, the rat's crooked grin and Roy's confession reminded him the fight was far from over. He closed his barn door each night, Max curled on his bed. "They'll try again," Marcus whispered. Max thumped his tail softly as if to say, "But we're ready." Haunted by the threats, Marcus realized true victory required both legal closure and enduring vigilance. Following the arson attempt, federal protective orders barred Karen, Roy, and any HOA affiliate from approaching Marcus's property. Marcus posted the court order visibly at his gate alongside a notice to trespassers: "Federal law prohibits entry." Federal agents patrolled the ranch around the clock, and local deputies provided backup on rotating shifts. Marcus upgraded his security, additional cameras with night vision, reinforced gate locks, and an alarm system linked directly to law enforcement. Yet threats persisted. One morning, he discovered that his American flag had been cut down and trampled. Another day, a voicemail repeated the chilling message, "Leave now or your dog dies." Each incident was logged meticulously in Marcus's incident journal and shared with Ramirez. Community sentiment shifted. Neighbors who had once avoided involvement now left care packages at his gate and offered to testify on his behalf. Local businesses displayed signs, "Support our veterans and service dogs." On the legal front, his civil lawsuit advanced. Depositions from Susan, Grant, and Roy painted a vivid account of conspiracy, harassment, and fraud. Discovery revealed emails instructing targeted vandalism. Marcus's attorneys filed motions for summary judgment on ADA and state-level assault claims. At twilight, Marcus stood on his porch with Max at his side. The protective orders held, and the case's trajectory favored justice. Yet Marcus remained watchful. He flipped through his incident journal one last time. Each entry, pepper spray, false accusations, slashed tires, attempted arson, had fortified his resolve. He whispered to Max, "They can keep trying, but this ranch is ours, and the law protects us." Max leaned against his leg, a living testament to loyalty, healing, and the quiet strength of one man and his service dog standing firm against intimidation. When the emergency HOA meeting was announced, 7:00 p.m. at the Green Hills Clubhouse, Marcus knew he had to confront the remnants of the board. That evening, he arrived with Max in vest, Agent Ramirez's DOJ badge on display, and 2 fellow veterans from the local VFW who'd suffered similar HOA harassment. The clubhouse door swung open to reveal Greg pacing nervously behind a long folding table, alongside Susan and Grant, Karen absent, in custody. Chairs filled rapidly with curious residents and reporters. A tension hung in the air that Marcus hadn't felt since the pepper spray incident. Greg cleared his throat. "Welcome, everyone. This meeting will address community concerns, including Mr. Bryant's property status." His voice wavered. Marcus stepped forward, placing his binder on the table. Max sat obediently at his side. "I'm not here to debate HOA bylaws," Marcus began. "I'm here to present the truth." He handed out packets containing photographs of trespass, copies of federal protective orders, and the DOJ's indictment list. He narrated the key events: Karen's assault on Max, Susan's bogus inspections, Grant's financial complicity, and Roy's intimidation tactics. Ramirez then spoke, detailing the federal charges and fraud findings. The room fell silent as residents absorbed the evidence. A few voices erupted. One neighbor demanded the HOA board resign immediately, another urged legal reform. Greg stammered an apology, but audience murmurs grew: "They broke our trust," and "We need a new community charter." During a vote called by residents, an overwhelming majority voted to dissolve the existing board and restructure governance. Plans formed instantly for a civilian oversight committee and transparent financial audits. Many pledged to participate. As the meeting adjourned, residents surrounded Marcus and Max with support. A local farmer offered to repair his fence at cost, a church group volunteered legal aid. Ramirez quietly arranged for DOJ follow-up, ensuring the new committee's legitimacy. That night, Marcus walked to his pickup under a sky heavy with stars. Max trotted beside him, tail wagging. Although the HOA's old guard had been displaced, Marcus understood that rebuilding community trust would take time. Yet as he climbed into the driver's seat, he felt hopeful. Truth had triumphed, and the ranch's rightful place was secure. 2 weeks later, Karen's federal trial commenced in the district courthouse. Reporters lined the steps, and activists held signs. "Justice for Max," and "Protect our veterans." Inside, Karen, in a drab prison jumpsuit, sat beside her attorney with a defeated posture. U.S. Attorney Collins presented compelling evidence: DOJ videos of the pepper spray assault, Roy's confession, bank statements showing misappropriated HOA funds, and forensic reports on the attempted arson. Witnesses included Marcus, Ramirez, and goat farmer Rob, who testified about Karen's patterns of harassment. The defense attempted to cast doubt on jurisdiction and intent, but each tactic collapsed under the weight of documentation. After 2 days of testimony, the jury deliberated less than 3 hours before returning a verdict: guilty on counts of service animal assault, trespass, embezzlement, and solicitation of arson. Sentencing followed swiftly: 5 years in federal prison, restitution covering Marcus's vet bills and property repairs, and a lifetime ban from HOA activities. Karen's conviction sent shockwaves through Green Hills and neighboring communities. With key HOA figures either indicted or discredited, Marcus's civil suit moved to a swift settlement: statutory damages under the ADA and punitive fines. The new HOA Oversight Committee adopted policies championed by Marcus: proof of service dog status, transparent budgets, and clear boundary definitions. Back at the ranch, a ceremony unveiled a plaque beneath the old oak, in honor of loyalty, justice, and the unbreakable bond between a veteran and his service dog. Marcus hung a fresh American flag and knelt beside Max. The golden retriever licked his hand, alert but at peace. As the sun set, Marcus reflected on the journey, from a tranquil ranch to a legal battleground and back. The victory wasn't revenge, it was restoration. He whispered, "We did it, buddy. Let's go home." Max stood, tail wagging gently, and together they walked into the fading light, ready for the next chapter of quiet living. Protected by law and fortified by courage.